Good morning, everyone. I'm so honored to be back here. When I first came here 15 years ago, I had a son who was 1 year old, and now he's 16 in junior, so time flies, and I'm so glad to be back here. And Dr. Stowe, can I present the boards now? And in appreciation of all the efforts put in for this event, I would like to present the Astronaut Office Presentation Board to Ellison Maruzuka Memorial Committee, El Camino College, and also American Honda. And I appreciate if you could come up here. So this is to the Ellison Maruzuka Memorial Committee, and thank you very much for the help. Appreciate that. Today we have a lot of people at El Camino College volunteering, and it's a wonderful place to convey this message of excitement in human space exploration. And thank you very much for your wonderful assistance in the past many, many years. And I would like to present you. Thank you very much. The first, the Department of Defense flight, and the crew flew and conducted operations for 3 days before they landed on January 27th. So after this flight, Ellison was assigned very quickly to the next flight, which was STS-51 Lima, and that was launched on January 28th of 1986.
7, 6. The main engine start. 4.
So the launch was at 11:38 Eastern Time on this day of January 28th. It was a beautiful launch, and the space shuttle will be at the supersonic already at 45 seconds from the liftoff. And around the time, the space shuttle's main engine throttles are reduced to about 67% in order to reduce the excessive loading to the structure between the space shuttle orbiter and then the fuel tank. So after passing this dynamic pressure high region, the throttle will be going up to 104%. Many of you here probably were not born when this happened in 1986. I was a student in the university studying aeronautical engineering. It's always tough to watch this tragedy. And that was not the only accident that we experienced in U.S. human spaceflight history. We lost Challenger 7 crew members in 1986. Before that, we lost 3 Apollo astronauts during a launch pad test because of a fire that happened in 1967. And after the Challenger accident, we had another accident in 2003. That was Space Shuttle Columbia accident during the re-entry to the atmosphere, and we lost 7 astronauts. So going to space is a risky business. But what we gain by going to space will give us new discoveries, new technologies that will benefit the entire human species on the planet. That's why the risk that we are taking is worth the risk taking in order to have these new discoveries and new knowledge for all of us on the ground. And I am very honored to be part of this great team in human space flight to pursue my career in the field of exploration. So whenever I launched on the space shuttle, Challenger had an accident 73 seconds into the launch in space flight. During the launches, 3 times, I always thought of my lost heroes as we passed by 73 seconds. Around the time that the Capcom, the capsule communicator in Houston, calls out, go up, throttle up. And I am so honored to be part of this exploration. When I was 5 years old, I saw this event. Probably many of you here have not seen this on TV, when two US astronauts stepped on the moon. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were the first 2 people who stepped on the surface of the moon on July 20th, 1969. I was 5 years old, and I was, very thrilled to see that human beings can do such a wonderful thing, working in space, stepping on the surface of the moon. But at the same time, I thought only American astronauts and former Soviet Union cosmonauts could do something like this, because we did not have Japanese astronaut at the time. I was 5 years old. I didn't even understand what they're talking on the TV in English, and also those Russian conversations when we saw the Russian space activities on TV. So as a small child, I thought to go into space is beyond my reach. There's no way that I can be part of it. But 20 plus years after this event, thanks to the strong leadership of NASA, of this country, to train international astronauts among the countries of the space station participants, and strong partnership between those nations, I am here with you today. I saw a newspaper article of selection of astronaut candidates back in 1991. At the time I was working as an airplane structural engineer in Tokyo, and on my way to my office, I read the newspaper, and then there was an article that the Japanese Space Agency was selecting 1 or 2 astronaut candidates to be sent to Houston for training, and I applied, and we have 400 or so candidates, and then we started out from academic tests, lots of interviews, medical tests, psychological assessment, psychiatrical interviews, and after like 50 stages of selection, somehow I was luckily selected, and I was sent to Houston in July of 1992. I still remember it was on 4th of July when I arrived in the Houston airport. I saw the fireworks on the 4th of July, so I thought, wow, I am so welcomed by this. I didn't know that it was 4th of July, but I was very surprised to see that wonderful view. And since then, I started the training, starting in August of 1992, completed 1 year of basic training together with his classmates. We had 19 American astronauts, 2 European astronauts, 2 Canadian astronauts, and 1 from me. And I was here, and I look like a high school boy, but I was the youngest in this class. Each time when we have astronaut class, the youngest person in the class receives a pacifier, and the pacifier has a flag, like this red flag that you can see on the airplanes, maintenance places, that shows remove before flight pacifier. So I received it, and I removed it before I went to fly in space, and I handed over to the next class youngest person. After going through the basic training, I was assigned to my first space flight on Space Shuttle Endeavour, and this launch was on January 11th, 1996. That was STS-72, 9-day mission to deploy and retrieve US and Japanese satellites, 2 satellites. We did some spacewalks for testing for the International Space Station assembly. And in 2000, on STS-92, on Space Shuttle Discovery, flew on this flight, and we worked on the assembly of the space station. I was a robotic operator for this flight and put 2 new components, Z1 truss and pressurized mating adapter to the International Space Station. In year 2009, I flew on the STS-119 on the Space Shuttle Discovery, floating in zero gravity, but astronauts or a spacecraft or pencils, anything, if you just let it go, it's going to fall towards the center of the Earth because of the gravity of the Earth. So spacecraft, astronauts or any items are falling towards the center of the Earth, but at the same time, the Keeball experiment module. What you see is the entire portion of the Keeball module. This is the pressurized module where we conduct a variety of experiments using the microgravity environment. And external port, we use the robotic arm to exchange the equipment on the exposed facility. And also there's a logistics module where we can stow experiments and other items that we need on board the station. Japan also has a cargo supply vehicle like SpaceX Dragon or Orbital Cygnus spacecraft. This is called Konotori. Konotori is launched from Tanegashima Space Center in Japan, located in the southern end of Japan. And it's launched on H-2B rocket. And this is the Konotori spacecraft. It launches on the rocket and makes rendezvous automatic with the remote control from the Space Center in Japan. And when it arrives nearby the space station, about 10 meters below the Japanese Keeball module, we use the Canadian robotic arm, Canadarm2, to grab it. And then after we dock it to the space station, astronauts go inside and take out the equipment that we need. And after that, we put all the trash, the experiments that we don't need anymore, a lot of trash we have on board the space station, and then during the re-entry, it will be disposed with destructive re-entry. This is such a wonderful vehicle. It can do a lot of things. It can conduct a lot of experiments in space. It can do spacewalks for assembly of the space station. We can deploy satellites and retrieve satellites using the space shuttle. This is such a versatile vehicle, and it played probably the most significant role in the assembly of the International Space Station. I launched on the Soyuz spacecraft on my flight in 2013. Soyuz is very small compared to the space shuttle, and it's very cozy. 3 of us sit together, and the launch was very smooth. I could not even tell when the launch occurred because the vibration was not as strong as at the launch of the space shuttle. And we have window in the cockpit of the Soyuz spacecraft, but outside there's a cowling or fairing. With that, we cannot see outside when we launch, so we could feel some vibration, and we never could tell when the liftoff occurred because the launch was very smooth on the Soyuz. On the other hand, the touchdown was really dynamic on the Soyuz. The shuttle lands on the runway like a normal airplane very smoothly, but the Soyuz landing is with use of a parachute, and it touches down as if you are having a traffic accident, so it's very dynamic. You can see that in later film. Now, Soyuz spacecraft is the only means for us to go to the space station as of today. However, there are 2 CST-100.